Happy Monday. I hope everyone is having a good day so far and is looking forward to the week. Let me just make sure everything is going properly and we will get started. I'm very excited for what I have to share with you today. I often share my side hustle journey, but I've never really shared it in such just an open and streamlined way. And I really wanted to be able to do this to answer any questions you guys have about it and to just be really honest and transparent about my journey. So hopefully it helps yours as well. So let's get started. If anyone on Facebook could just let me know that you can hear me, that'd be great. And I'd love to hear where you're tuning in from. And if you're watching the replay, I'd love for you to type in replay. But let's get going. So you guys are watching the Your Biggest Vision show, and I am your host, Leah Gervais. And as you may or may not know, I do this show twice a week. And on Mondays, the first episode every week is live. So I come here on Facebook with you all. I love answering your questions, and I love really connecting with you guys in this live way. And then we put it on iTunes and on my website and on YouTube the next day. So if you don't make it live, no problem. You can always tune in when it's convenient for you after the following day. And then we also do an episode every Wednesday. And we are all about supporting you in finding and fostering your greatest vision. And so today I thought that there would be no way better to start. Hey, Catherine, good morning. Just so you guys know, I took a red eye last night from Tel Aviv. So I have not slept really, except for on the plane. But I was so excited about this that I really wanted to come on and do it anyway because it's just a topic I'm very passionate about. And it's something I really wish I would have known earlier on, or that some of the people that I started following and looked up to said the same thing to me. So what I'm going to do is walk you through my entire side hustle journey. Don't worry, we're not going to be here for forever. But pretty much the beginning and, when pivotal things happen to me so that you can really see the turning points I've had. I think it's easy when you see someone at a certain level of success and it seems like everything was really planned out to get there. And that's almost never true. And when I made a lot of the decisions I'm going to share today, or started some of the things I talk about, I had no idea that they were going to get me to where I was today. A lot of it was quite scary and risky. But a lot of times, I've heard this phrase from Mike Dooley, you can connect the dots backwards. I think Steve Jobs also talks about that. You don't always know the direction you're going in, but when you look back, you can realize that all led me to where I am today. So I want to share some of those dots with you. And most importantly, I want to talk to you about the 5 things I've learned along the way that have made me more of a visionary and that have made me dream bigger and that have made me achieve even bigger and better goals than I once thought possible. So this is personal, and it's also pretty powerful stuff. So I hope that you enjoy it. And I'd also just love to hear any of your feedback or reactions if any of this resonates with you and if any of this is about where your side hustle journey is. And then just one more comment. I'm sorry it's a little bit dark. We are getting a new lamp here soon. I know I have had coffee. I also have my green juice. I will be getting more coffee after this. I also might take a nap later. Anyway, so without further ado, my side hustle started not as Urban 20 something. That was sort of my first website, project that I took on. But when I really started deciding that I needed to make more money than at my 9-to-5 job, it was when I had recently graduated college and I was working as a paralegal, and I was still working part-time as a bartender after work because I had worked as a bartender in college and I just kept that job because I basically couldn't afford my life in New York from just my paralegal salary. And bartending obviously was not a permanent solution. I knew it wasn't going to be what I wanted to do forever. But the truth is I liked a lot of things about it. I liked that I had as much money as I did. Frankly, bartending in New York is very lucrative. And so I liked that being able to live comfortably in New York. I liked being able to be more in control of my money. That's something that's really valuable about the service industry is you sort of do get back the effort you put into it. Not always, of course, but it was sort of up to my hustle, right? If I really showed up, if I was really fun and bubbly and conversational with people and made a good experience for them, then I would get more tips and I would make more money. And I liked that dynamic. I liked it a lot more than my 9-to-5 job. So that should have probably been sign number 1 that entrepreneurship was meant for me, but it wasn't quite apparent to me at that point. So at that point, my vision for my life was just basically what I had thought it was going to be when I was younger. I wanted to live in New York. I wanted to live comfortably. I wanted, more than comfortably, luxuriously. I wanted to have a job that I loved and be able to really make the most of the city and everything it had to offer. And the career piece was very important to me. I definitely wanted to be fulfilled. It was not going to be enough just to make money. And at that time, I thought that I was going to go to law school and become an international lawyer or something of the sort. Maybe, I wasn't quite sure, but law school was the plan, and that's why I was working as a paralegal. Fast forward, I leave my bartending job because I decided I need to start applying to law school and studying for the LSATs and doing all these things around my 9-to-5 job that didn't allow for any work, of course, outside of it. And as I was studying for the LSAT, as I was working at a law firm, as I was dating the man who is now my fiance, who was also an attorney, and as I had several friends that were lawyers, being a lawyer in New York was nothing, it was not a far reach for me. It was nothing outside of my comfort zone. So many people in my life were literally lawyers in New York, from my colleagues to my boyfriend, friends, etc. And so when I tell often, as I do, that I declined my law school acceptances the last day that I had to notify them, after having taken the LSAT twice, after having gone to coffee and delivering flowers and whatever to multiple professors to write me letters of recommendation, after networking with alum of certain law schools, really going all out, to then just declining it, I talk a lot about how it was a feeling in my gut. And there is a piece to that was about a distrust. But I think the lesson here that I started to see was that even though there should have been every reason for me to see myself as a lawyer, I couldn't. Even though I worked at a law firm, even though I was dating a lawyer, even though a lot of my good friends were a lawyer, when I really envisioned my life and the way I thought it was going to turn out, I could not see myself being a lawyer. I just couldn't. And I really tried to lie to myself and say that that's because I've never done it or that's because it's unknown. But I didn't buy that, even for myself, because I have always been such a visionary. And when I was growing up and I wanted to live in New York, I could always see myself living in New York. When I thought I would meet, a great guy, I always could see that wedding happening or something like that. So even though I had never experienced any of those things, that was not a good reason for me to not be able to envision myself in this law school place. So this is takeaway number one. You have to be able to truly envision yourself within the vision you have. And this goes both ways, so hear me out for a little bit. The lesson for me came in the form of not being able to envision myself in a certain place because in my heart, I didn't really want to be in that certain place. And that's why I couldn't envision it, because it was not meant for me. But this goes the other way around as well. And this is really important. If you have a goal or something that you're working toward, you need to actively work to envision yourself in it if you want to get there. Otherwise, it will always remain a pipe dream. So even if you have a huge lofty goal right now, something like you want to build your business, your side hustle to, your full-time business, and you want it to be 7 figures, or you want to be able to travel full-time, or you want to move to a different country. None of these are impossible. But even if it's something very outside of the realm of what you've previously know or what you've ever done, you need to put in the work every day to bring the vision of you living in that way to your mind and to really solidify it. I can't stress enough how important it is, especially women. We're very visual. So what I could have done is try to then force myself to envision myself as a lawyer, but instead I took that as a note that if it wasn't something I was able to envision or didn't want to envision, then it's not something I should do. But I've also taken that lesson the other way around, and when I've had goals or had aspirations or had dreams, had something big I wanted to achieve, a great example is when I wanted to earn my first 5-figure month, the first month that I made over $10,000 in 1 month. I had never done that before, and I worked really hard every day when I got up. This is part of my vision checklist that you guys may have downloaded. I'll put that in the comments here. To see myself looking at my bank account and seeing that amount of money, to feel what it felt like to have built the business to that level, to understand that that was my reality, and to understand that it was coming for me and that I could put myself in it. So all this is to say is that the first thing I learned is how important it is to actually be able to envision yourself within that vision. Otherwise, it's just a fairy tale. It's just a pipe dream. It's just your imagination. And it might come true, but it's going to be a lot harder. And I'm not just saying this from some sort of like fairy tale language, envision yourself and it'll come to life. This is real, because this is you programming your subconscious mind to expect the thing that you desire. And when your mind is expecting that, it is going to take action in the direction of what will get you there. So all of a sudden, when you do start having offers to meet with someone who might help you get to that goal, or some client, maybe emails you that you didn't really think was a potential client, but you see it in a different light because you remember constantly that you are working to put yourself in this vision you have for yourself. Does this make sense? I'm trying to think of an example from when I started doing this, but I guess, yeah, with like my 5-figure month, a good example is just really owning it and knowing it was mine. I guess that's not actually the best example because I did have a pretty clear plan for how I wanted to do that. But nonetheless, when I went to Asia, for example, and so after I quit my law firm job, I guess this is a good time to pause and go back to the side hustle story, and then I'll kind of sidetrack for a minute. So anyway, I was at this point where I was working really hard toward this goal, and this goal was coming true. I was able to go to law school, and I could not envision myself actually living in that way. And from that, largely, I decided then to not go forward with that and not move forward in that way. So then here I am, still with a vision that I have for my life, but absolutely no plan with how to get there. I just bagged the only real plan that I had, so I was feeling very, very lost. I started Urban 20-something, and even the name Urban 20-something is very clearly about the vision that I was trying to get back to. It was me trying to figure out how I could make the most of this time in New York and live my life the way that I had dreamt of when I was a kid. How I could find a fulfilling career, even though I had no clue at that point because I've only ever worked at a law firm. How I could make good money, which again, I had no clue at that point because I had only worked at an entry-level job and I was about to lose my job. So this was sort of my quest to do it. And at the time, my vision for this website was to become a community where I could sort of reach out and connect with like-minded millennials. I knew I couldn't be the only one that was just like, oh, what are we actually doing with our lives? And I wanted it to be a place where I could document the road less traveled I was about to take, the road that scared me, but that I was also excited about. And then I did want to, I liked the idea of being able to make money from it eventually, but even that was a pretty low-level vision. And so in terms of what I thought it was going to turn into at this point, really it was just a way to document, this new chapter for me. But I knew that I was in pursuit of that vision with this website, and that's why I titled it that. So that brings me to lesson number 2, which is don't get bogged down in the how of your vision. So when I left my law school opportunities at the door, I also then decided that because I wasn't going to be a lawyer, I did not want to work at my law firm anymore. So I declined so I quit my job. So I'm unemployed. I don't have any path to go to graduate school. I didn't really have a whole lot of savings because I didn't plan this out very much. And now I have this website that is somehow going to document my road to get to the huge vision and goals that I had always had for my life. And this was very terrifying. I'm not saying that I came from this of a place of like, yes, I have figured it out. Everything is going to be flawless. Couldn't be further from the truth. But I had that vision in mind, and that is what guided me through this time. And so from having this sort of overarching view of what I was working toward, I was able to take smaller steps in that direction, even though I didn't know how they would get there. So specifically at that time, what I did was decided to go to Southeast Asia and travel by myself for a while. Really a career move at the time. I wasn't going to work anywhere, and I didn't know how I was going to get a job when I wanted one again. It wasn't going to be something hugely profitable. I didn't really know, but I did know that the vision and the person I wanted to be when I grew up was someone who traveled alone in her 20s, someone who was well-versed in terms of what the rest of the world might be like, and someone who was brave and fearless. And so for those reasons, I decided to take this huge leap. And so here the lesson was to not get bogged down in the how. I did not know how these things were going to get me to where I wanted to be. I didn't even know if they were, but I knew that by staying stuck, that was certainly not going to get me to where I wanted to be. And so this is kind of lessons 2 and 3 in 1, is to not focus always on your big vision, but focus on finding clarity about the next goal. So what small thing can you do today, this month, next week, that could contribute to that vision as a whole? Not how am I going to make $100 million in my business? How can I start my business? How can I quit my 9-to-5 job? How can I get a client? How can I create something new and sell it? Those are the little things that will get you to that bigger vision. So long as you have it in mind, you don't need to, lesson 2, get bogged down by the how, and 3, you can focus on finding clarity about your next biggest goal. So that's where I was. I was just going to the next thing that I thought was possible. I was going to Southeast Asia. I had this new little blog that was going to document me on my trip to kind of eat, pray, love, find myself, volunteer, figure out what the heck I was going to do with my life. And that's pretty much where I was. Now, things were scary at this point, but I want to rewind a little bit and talk about this vision piece. So I just want to share a little bit about my experience in Bangkok, because that was one of the highlights of my trip in Southeast Asia. So at this point, I had started my website and I had been freelancing a little bit. That's where I'm at with this side hustle journey. And my website was going okay. But then I was realizing that this website could be something on its own, maybe. You know, I was still not like totally convinced at this point, but I was seeing more traction from it than sort of the freelancing I had been doing on the side or anything else like that. And most importantly, I did see that people were interested in the fact that I'd quit my job and that I was traveling, and they were interested in how to do that as well. So I'm getting excited about my website. And I'm thinking, okay, you know, what's next for me? And I really just wanted to find a way in Bangkok to make a bit more money than I had been, and really find the space for me to then find the next move for myself. And at the time, I wanted to go back to New York and get another 9-to-5 job. I wasn't ready to do this full time. I didn't know that I wanted it to be full time. I was still hoping that I could somehow get to that bigger vision for my life through a 9-to-5 career that I really liked, though I didn't know how. So I end up in Bangkok, and I'm in this small hostel, and I'm staying by myself, and I don't know when I'm coming home, and things are just a bit hard, honestly. I was a bit confused. I had made some friends, and I loved Bangkok, but that was kind of it. So I really tried to tune into this vision part for myself. This is when I started to use, you know, the power of my vision in the other way. And I really started to focus on what I wanted out of the rest of this time in Southeast Asia. And I realized that it was clarity about my website, a job back in New York, and the ability to make the most of the last of my time in Bangkok. So quick side story. What ended up happening to me was that I was at lunch one day in Bangkok, and I met this family, this Thai family at lunch that had lived in New York earlier on. So they started talking to me because they heard me speaking English, and then we found out that I was from New York and they had lived there. And they invited me to go to the Bangkok Orchestra with them a couple of nights later. So I take the subway and I go meet them at the Bangkok Symphony Orchestra, and it was a really beautiful show. I had a great time with their family, and it just so happened that the theme of the orchestra that night was Broadway hits from, you know, from just musical instruments, no singing. And I'm a huge Broadway freak. So they do a fabulous job. I'm like beside myself out of joy. And I go and leave the symphony to take the subway back to my hostel, my, you know, $8 a night hostel where I shared a room with all these other people. And I see in the distance someone standing waiting for the subway, and she has a huge cello, and she's like my size. She's so small, and she has this huge cello waiting for the subway. And I was like, oh my God, I think that that's one of the cellists from the Bangkok Symphony Orchestra. I'm just going to go up to her and tell her what a terrific job I think she did, because I love the show so much. So I go up to her. I don't know if she speaks English. I don't know if she's going to be nice. I don't know. But this, again, was just in my gut telling me to go forward and do this. So I go up to her and I sort of said, hi, I just want to let you know that I was at the symphony tonight. My name's Leah. I think you did a beautiful job, you know, and you're so talented. One thing leads to another, and we end up having a conversation. We take the whole subway together, and she shares from me that she's actually from Israel, and she had relatively recently moved, her and her whole family, her 3 kids, to Bangkok because she got this job at the symphony. And she also shared that because her kids were from Israel, they have a slight accent in English. The younger one a bit less so, but especially the older. And she, ever since she has been moving to Bangkok, had been looking for an American to come teach them privately English and read with them and just work a bit with them on their dictation and pronunciation. And she asked me if I would do it. And she said she would pay me what she paid her tutors in the United States, which in Bangkok is quite a bit of money and got me quite far because Thailand is so inexpensive. So all that's to say that this power of visioning does work. Now, of course, this is a really incredible story. I got very lucky, but I truly believe that if I hadn't focused on the vision for what I wanted the rest of my time to be like, the vision for what I thought Bangkok could be like for me, then I would never have ended up speaking to those people at lunch. I would have never actually said yes to going to the orchestra with these people I don't know. I would never have had the guts to go up to this woman carrying a cello in the middle of the night in a city all the way across the world. And I wouldn't have ended up teaching her kids English, then basically replenishing the money I had spent while I was in Asia. And even further, they ended up having an extra studio apartment where she practiced her cello, and I moved into it. And so all this is to say that these are the kinds of things I'm talking about when I say that when you program your mind to know that a bigger vision for yourself is possible out there, then you turn your thoughts away from obstacles and into opportunities. I want to say this again because it's so important. When you focus on your vision every day, you train your mind to see opportunities where other people see obstacles. And that is the key to making your biggest vision come true. This is why so many people say stuck. They say stuck looking at obstacles. They stop when they see obstacles. They don't think that obstacles could be actual opportunities, and they don't move forward with them. This was a huge lesson for me that night, and the whole rest of my time there. I realized that by not paying attention to the fact that I didn't know when I was coming back to New York, I didn't have a job when I was coming back, I wasn't making that much money, I was staying in a small hostel, I was so lost. And I know that it might sound like this is a good problem to have because I was in Thailand, but I was very lost. And it wasn't that I was in a bad situation. I wasn't depressed, but I really had to flip my brain from thinking that I was in a place of question, confusion, crises, what's next, and into a zone of complete and open opportunity. So just to recap a bit, basically at this point in my side hustle, I am nearing my time at the end of Southeast Asia. Urban 20-something's up and running. I know it's going to be a side hustle for now because I was not ready to continue being an entrepreneur for forever. I didn't even know if that's what I wanted quite yet. And I, oh, just one second. Sorry, you guys. So I was really just sort of trying to figure out everything that I could. And then in terms of the three things that I had learned about my vision at this point, I learned that if you can't visualize yourself in it, then it's not going to happen. And so that can be a good thing. It also can be, a threat to you if you're not taking the time to actually work on things. And then number two was that I learned that you can't get bogged down in the how of things. You can only keep your vision, your bigger vision, strong. And then number three is that you have to focus on the next goal that can get you to your big thing. Okay, moving on. So now we're coming to lesson number 4, but we're also coming to the part of my side hustle where I come back to New York. That's the part of my story. So I end up getting a job while I'm in Bangkok that is in New York, and I fly back to New York and start my job. And I really, really loved this job. So at this time, I did not think that Urban 20-something was going to be my full-time job at all. That's not really what I had envisioned for it. And I was fine with that because I liked my full-time job and I thought that that could get me to my bigger vision in New York. So I started making digital products about a year into my website, which looking back was not the smartest thing. That's why I really encourage my clients to start much sooner because financially it would have helped me quite a bit. But at the time, that's just the way I did it. So once I start making digital products and start realizing that I do have people interested in my story and in how I'm doing things around my 9-to-5 job and in how I traveled, I realized that this actually was a movement in itself and it was bringing me career fulfillment. And I had to be open to the fact that this could be helping my dream itself. From there, I started actually also making quite a bit of money. I mean, not quite a bit, but at the time I was making over $1,000 a month from Urban 20-something, and that to me was really helpful. You know, when you're making an entry-level salary, having that extra $1,000 a month can be hugely helpful to your lifestyle and your bank account and all that good stuff. It also made me realize that I was starting something that was not just a blog, but that was really a business, and that was really something I could monetize and have success with, and so that excited me. And here's where we come to lesson number 4, perhaps the lesson that is closest to my heart, which is how important it is to ask yourself where and why you're thinking small. So, you know, now it's so obvious that I had this big vision for a life that I wanted to live. I was very excited about it. I had this budding business that was going well, Not sure why I didn't connect the dots sooner, but for some reason, it took me a little bit of time to understand that this for fun project I had was not just a thing that was for fun, but it actually was going to lead me to the bigger vision that I had. And I know now that that's because I had been thinking small about my side hustle the whole time. I had just been still excited about the fact that I might have that extra $1,000 a month and that I might be able to live a little bit easier every month or pay back my student loans sooner, whatever it was. And of course I knew the power of building a business and I knew that it was possible for other people, but for some reason I had not yet seen that it was possible for me. I didn't believe it was possible for me. So I want you all to ask yourself, where might you be thinking small with your own goals? Where might you be holding yourself back? Where might you be thinking that other people could do this, but maybe not you? Do you see people online that are traveling and you think, oh, I want to travel full time, but I'm not going to because it's just not meant for me? Do you see people that are women that are making more than their husbands and you think, oh, well, that's great for them, but that would never be for me because maybe my family doesn't really approve of that kind of thing? Do you think of women that are, or even men either, that are making multiple six figures and you think that's great for them, but because of the path that I have or the career choices I have or because I have student loans or because I went to this college or whatever your story is, then that's not going to be for me? I have told myself many of these things, and so I'm not, these are sensitive things to ask. If any of you want to share on this, if anything comes to mind, I'd love to hear. But these are really, really important questions to ask to make sure that you're not thinking small. I was thinking small for my side hustle. It took me about 1.5 years to realize it could be my full-time job and more than my full-time job, that it could be a thriving business, that I could actually hire other people and make their lives better too, that I could help my clients, that I could start a global movement. It really took a while for me to move past the own small visions I had for myself. And it can be really painful when you do this because a lot of the times the reason we have small visions for ourselves is because other people have told us that that's how things are supposed to be. Maybe not explicitly, but maybe your parents have implied that you shouldn't take risks and start your own business and quit your 9-to-5 job. Maybe your colleagues would think that you're completely crazy and they're your friends and you wouldn't want to do this without them. Maybe your friends are, really attached to the way that they're doing things and you would feel like an outcast. Maybe you grew up in a religious setting or a societal setting where women didn't make that much money, or maybe you just didn't think it was right for you, or whatever the case may be. These are all signs that you are acting small. And here's where it's concerning. I get that it's scary to break the status quo, but those people out there, your coworkers, your parents, your friends, even the people you love most, your immediate family, your significant others, etc., they don't have to live with the regret that you will, that you didn't go for something that you could. I'm going to say that again. Those people that might be influencing your vision of your potential do not have to live with the regret that you do, but for not going for something bigger. So it's incredibly important to really think about where you might be doing things small. Could you have a better website than you're letting yourself have because you don't want to pay that much for it right now? Could you be, working harder than you are around your 9-to-5 job, but you don't want to lose your friendships or your relationship status or something like that? Could you really think about leaving your 9-to-5 job this year? Which, by the way, if you are thinking about that, I'm doing a free series this week. I think if Drew's watching this, he might be able to put the link below, but otherwise I will later on how to map that out. But moving backward, if you are thinking about you really could want to leave your 9-to-5, then maybe you should. So ask yourself, why aren't these things in the cards for you? Why isn't a huge house in the cards for you? Why isn't a business in the cards for you? Why isn't a huge income in the cards for you? If it's not because you don't want it, then that's fine. If it's because you don't want it, that's fine. But if it's because of a way that someone else has influenced you to think, remember that that other person or society or whatever, figure they are, does not have to live with the regret that you will, that you didn't go for something with your whole heart and your whole mind and your whole soul. So that is when that revelation hit me, is when I realized that this was going to be my 9-to-5 job, or my full-time job. And not only was it going to be my full-time job, I was going to go all in. I was going to make more from it than I was at my 9-to-5. I was going to put everything I could into the programs I created, share all the knowledge I had learned over the last 3 years, do everything I could to help my clients see the successes that they desired, and really try to share my message loud and wide. And look, I know that to some people my message might not be that unique. There are a lot of people out there that are going for it. But it's because my message is not unique that I need to share it, because you might have had the same annoyances, frustrations, or small thinking that I suffer from. And suffer might sound like a big word, but it's not. This is real. This is your life. And so it's because I went through these times of thinking that I needed to go to grad school, that I needed to have a 9-to-5 job, that I would never have it in me to make more than my 9-to-5 job or to hit 10-figure months or anything like that, and me having to break past them, that I want to share with you. I thought it wasn't right for me too. And I had to get past that. And so if you are holding yourself back in any of those ways, but any of them sound like a desire to you, then this is your invitation. And in fact, it's your duty to stand up for the potential that you have, because no one else is going to stand up for you. And this revelation for me is, as you guys all know, the end of the story, how I ended up leaving my 9-to-5 job and working for myself full time and being at where I'm at now, which I'm very, very proud to be at. And so it took about, I would say, 6 months from when I officially decided that I was going to do this to when I gave my notice. And sure that I had to be a bit patient during that time. I had to be patient during a lot of legs of this journey, but it's worth it because your vision is worth everything. So, here, let me just add in the other, thank you for adding that, Drew. That is a good resource. But I have a series I'm doing this week that I will just drop this in. It's a new series. I've never done it before because I really want to go deep with you guys about mapping this out with you as well. So it is called Surpass Your Salary, your 9-to-5 salary. And it's not just meant for people with 9-to-5 salaries. If you just want to get your income up to what your side hustle was or what your main hustle was, or even more, it's still going to be helpful for you. It's totally free and it's 4 days. So I'd love for you guys to show up. Okay, moving on to the last takeaway. This is kind of touched on what I just said, but the final thing is that it is up to you to fight for this vision that you have every day in ways big and small. So I also have a checklist that you guys can download about daily practices you can do to fight for your vision. But this is the biggest thing I've learned in the past year or so, is that it sounds very obvious, but no one is going to want your dreams to happen, your vision to come to life as much as you will. Even the people you love most. And that's okay. It's not their job. This is actually a very freeing revelation, because a lot of times we think that we need the support of our families, or we need the support of our, friends or anything else. And at the end of the day, it's just your job. It's just your responsibility, and no one else is to fight for your vision. So you have to do whatever it takes to keep fighting and fighting for it strong, even when it feels like it's not going anywhere, even when it can feel lonely sometimes, even when it can feel like you're not sure if you just did the right thing. It is up to you, and it is your job. So that's basically the path of my side hustle, from going from being a bartender, wanting to make a bit of extra money, starting a for fun website, leaving and traveling by myself to try to see where that would lead me, going back to another 9-to-5 I thought would help me get to my bigger vision, realizing that wasn't it. I was playing small, and I could actually create my own business to get me there, and being where I'm at now, having a business that's thriving and growing every single day. And just to recap, the top 5 takeaways from my journey that I've had about standing up for your vision, whatever your vision is that 1, if you can't envision yourself in doing something, you have to step back and ask why. Is it because you don't really want it, or is it because you aren't spending the time to really put yourself in the mode of potential and envisioning yourself getting there? We talked about how important it is to have the true reality of that vision as possible for you, and that only comes from you really seeing yourself in it. Takeaway number 2 is to not get bogged down in the how of your biggest vision. If you want any more information on avoiding the pitfalls of the how in your life, then I recommend reading Leveraging the Universe by Mike Dooley. He calls them the cursed hows. Takeaway number 3 is to find clarity about your next big goal, not your whole vision. So playing off the second one, instead of obsessing over the how of the whole thing, focus and get clear on the next big goal. Is it to make $1,000 this month? Is it to start your website? Is it to hire someone to help and show you how? Is it to start practicing vision practices every day? Whatever it is, get clear about it and start moving toward it. Number 4 is ask yourself if you're thinking you're playing small in any area in life. This doesn't just have to be about business, in fact, but any part of your business. Where could you be pushing yourself harder, and why aren't you? And number 5, it is up to you to fight every day for your vision. No one will ever care as much as you do. So there you have it, you guys. I hope that you enjoyed this. And let me know if you have any takeaways. I'm actually just going to hold on tight for 1 second to see if you guys have any questions, whether it's on this vision piece or just in general, if you guys want to ask any questions about your side hustle or my journey or any of the decisions I made along the way to get myself out of my day job or to hit any certain income goal or anything that I did in the beginning. Let me know. I'm going to chill with my green smoothie here for a sec and give you guys a chance to ask. And if you guys don't have any questions, but you just want to share your favorite takeaway, then that's cool too. I'm going to put the series URL in this video so you guys can see it there. All right, I don't see any questions. Totally fine. I just wanted you guys to know that you could ask if you had any. But thank you all for tuning in. I hope that my story was helpful to you, and I hope that these takeaways on how to stand up for your vision resonate with you and help support you in standing up for your vision. I know it can be hard. I know it can be lonely, but that's what this show and me, that's what we're here for. You don't have to do this alone, but you do have to do it. It is up to you to do it. And we are here to give you any resources you can to make that easier. So have a great day, you guys. This episode will be on iTunes on Tuesday, and we'll have another podcast episode out on Wednesday. And I'll talk to you soon. Thanks for tuning in.